Hey there, Contractor Kev here with Overseas Contractor Academy, and today we're going to be talking about my contractor experiences working in Helmand Province. That's right, I have actually gone to Helmand Province and worked and survived to tell the tale. So tune in today and find out what it's like to work down there with the Marines, and it'll give you some knowledge if you're ever offered a job working in a Marine base, working around the Marines, what you should expect when you do that. Stay tuned. Okay, so what was it like to work in Helmand Province? If you have eyes in your head, if you have ears on the sides of your head, and you've watched the news before, you know that Helmand Province was the site of quite a lot of conflict. And yes, they did have contractors down there, of which I was one for a short period of a few months. And so we're going to do a video today and talk about that. So I was on the main Marine base that was in the south, and it was called Camp Leatherneck. So Leatherneck shared a footprint in the south with a British base called Camp Bastion. So you had the British base and the US Marine base attached to one another, and you could easily transit between the two, and basically it was a shared perimeter. And so we had a lot of British people there, as well as the contractors and the US Marines, of course. Interesting side tidbit here. At Camp Bastion, that is actually where Prince Harry was flying his attack helicopter out of. Now, personally, I've been to Camp Bastion probably a good 50, 60 times. Never once saw him there. He didn't come by and offer me to, like, let's go hang out and have some tea or whatever it is the British do. Never saw him. I don't know if he was kind of kept away from all the normal people, but I was at Camp Bastion probably once every few days and never once saw him, but the rumor was he was there and he did fly combat sorties in a helicopter out of Camp Bastion. So, but I never saw him personally. He did never come around like high five, like, hey man, good job, Contractor Kev. Didn't happen. So the big takeaway, the one thing you should really learn from this video is that when you're going to be an overseas contractor, if you're going to work with the Marine Corps, that is going to be a very different animal than if you're working with the Army or the Navy or the Air Force. Usually most land installations are going to be run by the Army. Some are going to be run by the Air Force if it's more of a strategic airfield. But a few places, especially where the fighting is going on, are going to be run by the Marines. And they definitely have a different mission in life than the Army and the Air Force. And because of that different mission, they have a different attitude towards everything. So working with the Marines is a different animal altogether. Now, don't get me wrong, I am not anti-Marine at all. The Marines are, bar none, the best guys. If you're about to get in a fight with someone, you want Marines at your back. Plain and simple. The Air Force guys, you'd have to drag them out of a comfy chair. The Navy guys, you'd have to drag them off the dance floor down at the Purple Dragon or wherever it is, the Blue Oyster Bar, wherever those guys hang out. And the Army guys, yeah, they're okay. But the Marines, they're built for fighting. It's what they do. They're the toughest branch. They are just badasses, and there is no doubt about that. The problem is, a Marine, I almost think, would shoot himself in the foot just to brag about how good he can limp. I mean, they really like the life to be hard. They like conditions to be rough. And that way they can say, look how tough I am because I can endure these tough conditions. So how that's going to impact you as a contractor is, guess what? You are probably not going to have cushy living conditions if you are living and working with the Marines. So obviously, as we've covered in a lot of places, the money you make working as an overseas contractor is phenomenal. It's really good. But if you work with the Marines, you should just expect that living conditions are not going to be as cushy as if you're working with the Air Force would be the most cushy, and then the Army, which is typically just fine. The Marines like to limit their creature comforts. They like things to be tough. They like things to be a little more sparse, a little more drab, and yeah, they're just not much into having the nice things in life, let's say. Okay, so what I mean by that is where I was at in Camp Leatherneck, As an example, the Marine Corps general that ran that base decided there would be no other places to eat on the entire base except for the government-run dining facility. That was it. To him, if you could eat at Burger King or Pizza Hut, that was too soft, that was too cushy. Like, that's what those weak people did. And so if you were on a Marine base, you should eat with the Marines in the Marine Chow Hall, and that's it. That's your only choice to eat. So that's just kind of an example of that's their mentality, that's the way they operate. And so the only thing allowed on that base, there was no Burger King, there was no Pizza Hut, there was no shawarma joint, there was nothing else like that, you know, unlike Bagram, which has all the fast food places, or Kandahar, which has the boardwalk and like all these foreign restaurants, as well as Western chains. When you work in a place that's going to be Marine run, odds are high that you are going to be in a place where you're just going to eat at the dining facility that the contractors run, and that's going to be it. So the only thing that was allowed was a single coffee shop. That was it. I guess he could acknowledge that commercially they can make better tasting coffee elsewhere outside of the dining facility, and so he allowed one coffee shop on the base, but that was it. And that coffee shop was not allowed to sell food. Okay, so we talked about working with the Marines and basically what the Marine mission is, which is ground assault. If you are ever confused on this, the Army is all about sustainment and building up. The Air Force is about sending their troops forward and bombing the shit out of people, as well as transport, of course, of any kind of logistical needs. But the Marines are made to assault. They go in and they fight. They are tough as hell, and they deserve all the respect in the world for that. But when it comes to their living conditions, like we talked about, it's going to be a little bit different. So if you know that you're going to go work with the Marines, if you do not have a U.S. Marine background, and you do not have that tough guy, sort of alpha man, macho sort of mentality, when you go there, you might be a little shocked as to what their living conditions are, what their working conditions are. So if you take a job, it's a Marine job, and you know it's going to be working with the Marines, just be aware if you don't have the right background, if you don't have the right mindset, it's probably not going to be the right fit for you. Okay, so that was my experience working with the Marine Corps for the first time in Helmand Province, which was some tough ground to chew on. It was a tough assignment, and just being honest, like, defenses down, it wasn't for me. I worked there for about 4 or 5 months. I think it was just right at 5 months, and I was tapping out. I could say, you know, like, hey, I've got a lot of years of experience. I've done this. I can do whatever I need to do to make the money. But to be honest, it just wasn't for me. Working with the Marines was difficult. I have an Air Force background. I'm a civilian through and through. I don't have that Marine Corps mindset, and so it just wasn't a good fit. So I know now in the future, if I'm interviewing for a job and they say, okay, you're going to be working with the Marines, blah, 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 I know I should probably let them know that, hey, that's not going to be the right fit. So you just got to make these decisions with that in mind, that, hey, you know, the living conditions may not be so great. This might be a place to get that initial starting experience, and it's not going to be easy, but from there on, you can transition to something maybe a little more cushy, slightly less money, something of that nature. Now you've at least got some perspective of, here's what it's like to work with the Marines, and we'll cover working with the Air Force in another video coming up soon. Okay, so that's it for today. That's it for the Marines. Now you know. Thanks for watching. If you like what we're doing, give us a like, comment, or subscribe. And don't forget to share our videos on your social media channel if you want to either win dragons or unicorns or starships or any of that. See you next time.